Hello, Henshin heroes. It's Nathan Marchand, aka the Subro, coming to you live. And tragically, we finally get the crew back together last week. And now I'm doing the show solo. It's just funny how that works out. It's just weird doing this without my bros. Because that's really what's happened now with the three of us on the show. We're not just co-hosts, we're not just fans, we're bros now. And I miss my bros. But the show must go on, as Queen always told us. So here I am. I'm gonna get this live stream in here. My apologies for the lateness of this. Not only did I have not only did I have the fact that my co-hosts aren't here, but I also had to deal with the fact that because stupid time ended last week, I'm a born and raised Hoosier boy. We don't like daylight savings time. Because it ended last week, unbeknownst to me, both shows started live streaming an hour earlier than normal. Which wasn't all that bad for Omega last night because we didn't live stream last night, but it did affect us, me anyway, tonight for Zest, because this is not going to be a live reaction. So this is going to be an even more atypical live stream than normal. We finally got back to normal last week, and now we are no longer normal because it started an hour earlier. So I guess going forward, at least for the time being, we're going to have to start live streaming at 9 o'clock on Saturday nights. Hey, I'm cool with that because live streaming at 10 o'clock at night was a little bit annoying. So here we are about to do this. Please bear with me. I've had a very busy day today. I was gallivanting around creation a bit. And I recorded an MIFV, a Monster Island Film Vault episode today. So I've been keeping myself very busy. So I'm doing my best to stay caught up. I've got birthdays to take care of, holidays coming up, all kinds of things. It's a little bit wild. Regardless, let's get into this. So as usual, I'm going to start with Omega. Sorry, bumping the mic. So I'm going to start with Omega. It's episode 17. What is? There were kaiju in last week. Oh, wait, never mind. That's the recap episode. Because we had a recap episode last week. Sorry, I got distracted by what I saw in the Ultra Wiki. So episode 17. I should say it was 2 weeks ago that it was weird. Last week, well, they had a recap episode for Omega, and they took the week off for Zest and just showed all the past episodes. It was a little weird. Also, this means that because my bros are not here, we are not getting into the Super Sentai news, and the Super Sentai news just continues to get wilder because now there's more controversies going on, and it's a controversy that stemmed from the last controversy, which apparently was a non-controversy because it was not true. So this just keeps getting more and more insane. Grr. We're going to get into it at some point, but I got to get my bros back to do that. Chris, if you're watching, finish the freaking editing so we can get the rest of the season over with. All right. So episode 17 of Omega, called Snow Blossoms. The official synopsis on the Ultra Wiki goes like this. Using a new weapon developed by the NDF, humanity achieves its first solo victory against the kaiju. However, the kaiju, which was clearly defeated and dead, subtly reanimates. The KSCT and the NDF coordinate a defense strategy, but the situation rapidly worsens. To discover the weakness of this quote-unquote immortal kaiju Serato and Sayuki fly to the permafrost of the north. That's a little bit of what's going on. So this episode is a little bit strange in some regards because we have a returning kaiju in this, but it's not a returning kaiju. It's a little strange. So our returning, quote unquote, returning kaiju in this, and I'm going to screen share as we usually do on these to show you what we're talking about here. Our returning kaiju, oh, wrong one, is Pagos. This guy right here. He's about as old school as you can get because he goes all the way back to Ultra Q. Episode 18. And I didn't quite remember his name, but I recognized him immediately. And he's come back a few times. Yeah, right here. Oh, wow, it took him a hot minute. I thought he came back sooner than that. Huh. Yeah, but Ultra Q, Ultraman Taiga, Ultraman Z, New Generation Tiga, although you can barely see him. Episode Z, the crossover movie. Shin Ultraman, I remember he definitely was in Shin Ultraman. Ultraman Arc. And then today on Omega. Pagos is also noteworthy because he's one of the not Gamera. Got Gamera on the brain right now because reasons. He is a Baragon clone because this was one of a handful of kaiju from the original Ultraman, as we talked about on the show. That was a reuse of the Baragon suit from Toho, famously in Frankenstein Conquers the World and Destroy All Monsters. And they just sewed a new head on it. Yeah, this is the original from Ultra Q. So that was our monster of the week, but it's not really him. It was, in fact, to see if it says anything about it here. Not really. Oh, they don't have a main article yet for the actual monster. And this is what we're talking about here. What is it? Make sure I say it right. Edomophila? It's actually this fungus looking thing that takes him over. But it only takes over dead kaiju. Yeah, mold right here. Oh, here's our suit actor, Shun Takahashi. That's good to know. So this thing's actually kind of freaky. Gotta admit, this is a mold that will take over kaiju corpses and move them around like puppets. Yeah, it's a little bit horrifying. It's probably the freakiest concept for a kaiju, particularly on the Ultra series, that I've seen in a while, let alone on Ultraman. They've never done anything quite like this that I'm aware of. So this is a new kaiju, but it's not a new kaiju, but it allows them to reuse an old suit while putting some embellishments on it to make it something new. And this thing's only real goal is it's trying to get to more corpses to keep propagating itself. It's a little bit, like I said, freaky. I will admit, I'm not the biggest fan of this Pagos costume because it, as you can see in this screenshot, it looks very fabric-y. It is not convincing at all as a monster suit. The seams are just a little too easy to notice. So I was disappointed with that, especially since they lead with this very early on. Regardless, the episode still played out very nicely, and I like the embellishments here. I kind of wish this is a concept I come up with before, these parasites that reanimate corpses. I know there's precedent for things like this in nature, but this is still really wild. Absolutely wild. It's one of the more interesting, like I said, kaiju ideas I've seen in a bit. Oh, look, one of my bros is at least in the chat. Hey, Jake. Yep. We need more zombie kaiju. That's basically what this was. It was a zombie kaiju. Yeah, for sure. That's how we could have an actual zombie outbreak. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. That is one of the freakier ways to do a zombie outbreak. Yeah, the suit could have been polished a little bit. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But like I said, it was overall still pretty well done. Now, on the non-superhero front of things, well, I should bring this up. This thing has a bit of a bizarre weakness, because I could have swore they said if its weakness is that if it gets dry or cold. But I'm pretty sure they tried the cold thing and it didn't work, unless I'm misremembering something. But admittedly, I spelled the episode name wrong. Sorry. Live editing here. There we go. But I'm going to be honest. The drying thing I didn't mind because it was basically nigh invincible aside from that. And it's a bit of a tradition to take something that's insanely powerful and give it a remarkably mundane and kind of common weakness. So drying it out, sure, I can go with that. I'm fine with it. Yeah, I was just a little surprised that, it was something as simple as that. And we got to see both Vulcanus and Rekiness, and the toyeticness of some of this stuff is really starting to get to me, because the show really wants to emphasize Vulcanus because he's the new hotness, kind of literally. Whereas, to be honest, out of these three Medio kaiju that we've been getting on the show, Rekiness is my favorite. I don't like him as much as, say, Earth Garon from Blazar, but I've definitely been enjoying him the most. If I was going to buy a toy out of any of these three, it would be Rekiness. Now, to get back to the human side of things, I'm happy to say that the NDF continues to just be this military unit that's kind of doing its own thing. And the KCST, or however you're supposed to say, KSCT. Crap. I better go. I'm going to stop sharing. Let me see. The KSCT. Okay. The KSCT. They're still not exactly your traditional science patrol, which I'm grateful for. Let's see if I can get this out of the way so you can see my face. We'll do it live. So, which is nice, because I appreciated the fact that when this show started, that it didn't have a traditional science patrol team, and I wanted that to continue, but now we've kind of got one, but it's still not exactly the same. I'm starting to get confused on how much exactly is it. Not Sayuki, right? Yeah, Sayuki. She's a new character. I'm still trying to get her name memorized. How much she actually knows about what's going on. She's aware of Serato. Not Serato. Here I am forgetting character names again. Serato is our Ultraman. I'm starting to wonder if she knows about him. Yeah, Kosei. She knows about Kosei, and even berates him at the end of the episode. It's like, you can't use that power that you have except as a last resort. And she gives decent reasons for not. One is more sentimental than the other, but sure. Her name is Jake's fifth wife. I want to know who wives 2 through 4 are. I'm unaware of these. I need a list of all of your harem members, sir. Anyway, so I'm a little confused about that because it seems like she knows about Serato, but she isn't really telling anybody. Or she thinks that everybody, I don't know. I'm a little confused on that unless I missed something. But I am enjoying her, even though she is this late addition to the cast. I am enjoying her, but from what of what I'm seeing of her so far. Now, this is supposed to be their first foray as a team, and they do all right. I appreciate the fact that it was not the smoothest operation, that it was a bit bumpy along the way, as it should be, I think. But yeah, we also had some new developments. I appreciated seeing Ayumu really in her element and analyzing things and figuring things out and taking suggestions from the rest of the team. It was nice seeing them do that while also just basically operating in somebody's living room. It was kind of awesome like that. Like, this is remarkably grounded. It's a handful of people in a living room with a laptop doing their thing and then going off and investigating and seeing, investigating a bit to see what they can learn about this kaiju, and this absolutely ridiculous mold thing that they have going on. So it's great. However, we have a new element thrown into this. It was added rather unceremoniously, and I don't know what to do with it. We have a second Serato. This, and it's a second Serato wearing, well, he's wearing the clothes that he had at the end of this episode, but it seemed like they were intentionally giving him darker clothes to contrast with like the whites and all of that he was wearing in that particular scene. But this Serato sees this other Serato, and then, as is typical with something like this, he looks away for a second, goes back, and he's gone. No fanfare, no explanation. Nobody even talks about it. Serato doesn't say anything about it. I don't know what to do with this. And it just happens in the middle of this other story. So it's of the primary story that we have going on with this episode. So it just intrudes upon what is going on. And it has no bearing on the rest of the episode. And then we see this second Serato again later, just to remind you that that was a thing. And again, nothing is done with it. So I don't know if this is setting up the next episode, a final story arc, if it's hinting at the finale, what this is. I also have no idea what this is supposed to be. I don't know if it's a projection, if it's a mirror, if it's a clone. My first instinct when I saw it is that we're going to get time travel shenanigans, and this is future Serato, which I don't really think I want time travel in this story. I really don't, but I have no idea what's going on. So we're getting foreshadowing, but I can't tell what this foreshadowing is, and this foreshadowing came out of nowhere. Not the biggest fan of that. If they're going to do this, I would have preferred that there was some more fanfare with this whole thing. So your guess is as good as mine. Henshin Heroes, Henshin Nation, apparently that's a name we're experimenting with now. Your guess is as good as mine. What the heck is going on with this? I have been mostly impressed with the writing of this show. I don't know what they're doing with this. I really don't. But I guess We'll just have to wait and see until next week. That's most of the thoughts that I had on this episode. Admittedly, I saw it 24 hours ago, you know, so maybe there are some details I've forgotten. Going to the Frozen North was interesting. I will say that. So next week's episode is called "The House of Barasa," and the official synopsis for it goes like this: Kosei challenges Serato to a fight as part of his battle training with Rekiness, Trigeron, and Vulcanus. Well, that's gonna end in good. But the training ground deep in the mountains turns out to be the alien Barbasa Zagon's lair, and he covets their treasure, the Meteor Kaiju. Zagon captures Serato and Kosei. Then a mysterious girl named, was it Glida? Glida? Gilda appears in front of Kosei. Okay. And for those who need a reminder, because it's an alien next week, not a kaiju. So it's a Seijin. We're getting it's a Seijin week next week. But Alien Barasa is this one right here. It's not a new character. I think, was he originally from Zet? Yep, he was originally from episode 9 of Zet. I recognized him. I knew it was a returning kaiju. I just couldn't remember where I originally saw him, or if that was the first time he'd been in anything. But that's what it is. I'm not sure who Zagon is, but yeah, there you go. If they're going 20, I think is it 25? I think it's 25 episodes. If they're going 25 episodes, I wouldn't call this the home stretch. I would say when we get to about episode 20, I would start calling it the home stretch. But we're gearing up for the home stretch. This show should theoretically wrap up in June. I'm pretty sure we'll have one more recap episode. Well, actual recap episode, not a regular episode disguised as a recap episode, looking at you, episode 13. So we'll get one of those, and then let's see, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. We have 8 more episodes, plus the recap. So 9. Because Ultra Series usually wrap up by about end of January. Which means for a while there, you're going to be getting nothing but Zest coverage. Because I guess we're just going to keep this going. Because why not at this point? So there you go. We'll see where things go next week. And the Metal Don has given me the rest of his harem in the chat. So here you go. Samara Weaving, Alexandria Daddario, Jessica Biel. Wow, Jessica Biel. And Sydney Sweeney, of course. But wait, I wanted to know about wives 2 through 4. That's a little bit more, unless I've lost count, because I thought there were 5. Unless there are numbers after 5. Just saying. Jake, another comment here from Jake, going back to the original subject. I really hope when they make the movie, it's mostly in space or other worlds. That would be interesting. I would like them to do something like that, because I gotta admit, most of these modern Ultra movies have, I mean, the most recent one I saw the Arc movie, and the Arc movie really felt like a glorified episode. Heck, it felt like a 3-part episode. I would like them to feel at least a little bit cinematic. The Blazar movie was similar in that regard, which is so strange, because if you watch the, we'll say, finale movies for the 90s Ultra series, Higadina Gaia, I'm thinking of specifically, those felt very cinematic. They didn't just feel like overgrown episodes. Oh, no, there are 23. There are 23. I need a list and complete with pictures. Just saying. Just saying. All right. And now moving on to Zest and not doing it as a live reaction. So this is going to be interesting. I did just watch the episode not that long ago. Let me see. I want to find, does it have an episode list here on the writer wiki? Even though the writer wiki is at best inconsistent in its quality. Trust me, I know. Let me see. Oh, yeah, here's the episode list. So it's Case 9 Poison. Oh, that's the name of this character? Well, we have a name. We have a name for our recurring villain, at least on the writer wiki. His name is Nox. Nox. Because that was the big revelation at the end of this episode. He's much less of a mystery now. Since we're talking about him, I may as well get this out of the way. Turns out he is a former agent who looked into black cases. Which I guess I shouldn't be all that surprised by that. And it does make sense. I guess for some odd reason, I was expecting something a bit bigger and grander. I also wasn't necessarily expecting to get information, get a revelation about this guy this soon. But I was also thinking that they were going to drag this out longer. And I wasn't looking forward to that because I don't think they can sustain this this mystery for 50 episodes. But this was the second half of a two-parter. But the other part was 2 weeks ago because they took last week off, which was just weird. Don't know why. But the official synopsis on the writer wiki, which hopefully is better than the ones I was finding for Fies. Don't worry, you'll hear why. What is the nightmare Chef Sano desires? Baku finds a clue in the words of Shiomi and others in the real world, discovering Sano's third mind's door in a dream. Peering inside, ellipses, exclamation point. Who writes these things? While Fujimi and the others scramble to stop the summit meeting, Baku transforms into ZEZTZ, whatever, and collides with the poison nightmare. But then Nox reappears once more. Ellipses, exclamation point, question mark. Again, who writes this crap? Yeah. So we kick off resolving the cliffhanger from last week where it looks like Baku is going to die. And we've got people on both sides, in the real world and in the dream trying to save him. And our mysterious heroine, Rem. Is it Rem? No, Nem? Rem would make it Nem. She uses his own equipment, his own power up to heal him, which is interesting. And that keeps him from dying in the real world because we've established, much like in a lot of dream related fantasy stories, if you die in a dream, you die in real life, unless it's Inception, in which case it just wakes you up. But yeah, so he does that. And my theory that ZEZTZ is kind of OP continues because this thing can just heal him, and it can apparently not only heal him, but it can fix anything because he uses it later to fix his weapon when he's fighting the poison nightmare. Okay. And so that brings him back, and then they really start leaning hard into this whole restaurant chef thing, and now we've got a couple of politicians, these ambassadors, who want to try this guy's food, but this guy's actually in a coma. He has to have surgery on the same day that they're going to be there, but his apprentices are doing the thing. And it continues to feel very much like a police procedural, an episodic police procedural that, I mean, yeah, it's got some ongoing plot stuff, which we got some stuff about this time, but it continues to be a very episodic show. Okay, so all of that aside, I did get a little bit confused at a few points in this, trying to particularly at the end when I was trying to understand what was supposed to be real, what's supposed to be the dream. They really lean into the whole idea of the ambassadors dying from the poisoned sauce. And I lost track of what was real and what wasn't. I should have known better because the chef guy is supposed to be in a coma. But I wasn't. I was just like, what exactly are we trying to dodge here? Because do the ambassadors die in real life if they die in this dream, which doesn't make sense. So I think I missed a thing or two, unfortunately. Mock me if you wish. The monster of the week in this one, well, and from the last episode, the poison nightmare, for some odd reason, really reminds me, with the wacky color scheme, really reminds me of Mucus from Power Rangers Dino Fury. It's very colorful, almost garishly colorful. And, with his liquidy poison power set, I think that's another reason it reminds me of Mucus, even though their personalities are completely different and the designs really don't have a whole lot in common other than slime attacks and the garish colors. But I have to say something here. Not only are we dealing with the fact that this is kind of OP with all of his alt modes, but I brought up how there are points where Omega is starting to feel a little toyetic, and yeah, as I've been observing this for a while, and I think this is just a thing that the new gen heroes era of Ultraman has just been doing, where they're literally using the toys as props. Admittedly, using toys as props goes all the way back to at least the 90s, because the toys for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, for the Morphers specifically, look so good they could use them on the show and they looked legitimate. The toyeticness of Zest hit a new level for me this week, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And it's specifically when we get to the last fight of the episode, and Zest whips out. He has an axe now because he's got an axe to grind. Wait, where's my rim shot? Yeah, he's got an axe to grind. What? Why aren't you? There, it took me a couple of tries, but I got it to work. That looked kind of toyetic. Obviously a toy. But not so much that it bothered me. And then Nox gets out his big old sword. And it's supposed to be this epic moment where it's like, I'm the bad guy, and I got a big scary sword. I'm going to start beating up the hero. It's going to be great. I'm like, oh, good Lord, that looks like such a toy. I couldn't get over it. It is so garishly, obviously a toy. And I'm just thinking, guys, no way. Is your native Japanese audience just willing to accept this? Because even if this is supposed to be a dream world, Why does it have to look like a toy? This was supposed to be a big moment, and it looks like it looks like such a toy. And then he's like smacking Zest with it and beating him up. And I'm like, it looks like a toy. I keep telling myself, it's like, it looks like a toy. It doesn't just look like a toy, it is a toy. And you want me to believe that he is successfully kicking the snot, or rather, slashing the snot out of Zest with this? Nah, bro. Nah, bro. You have reached the bridge that is too far. I can't. And the sad thing is, it's probably going to keep coming back. They're not going anywhere with this prop. Yeah, of course you want it. Of course you want it. He also thinks that it would have been better if the ambassadors died. I don't know about that, but yeah, that was a little much for me. Wow. First off, Michael has been making that joke for a long time, my co-host on the Power Trip. And two, not touching it, which is, now that I think about it, is also kind of a terrible joke. Such is my life. Anyway. So yeah. Honestly, other than that, and there was some cool cinematography, some cool effects. There's a lot of obvious green screen in this. I will admit, Zest continues to be a visually interesting show. We even got a bit of a new effect in this where it looks like our bad guys can open curtains out of nowhere and kind of pass through dimensions by doing it, which probably the most interesting visual I've seen on the show in a while. It's something that I wish I had come up with myself. It's funny. It's oh really? Gay. Anyway. Yeah, I see. Yeah, opening the curtains was really cool. Like I said, I love that. I love that visual. But as I said, this show continues to be visually interesting. I will give it that. Sometimes I think it overextends itself with its ambition and resorts to a lot more CGI and green screen than I would normally want to see. You know, but then again, Omega is doing ambitious things with special effects in a very different way, more practical, bigger, you know, miniature cities and things like that. It's very different. But yeah. Yeah. So we had some nice revelations to keep things interesting. Because even though we know that apparently this guy's name is Knox and he used to work with our two kind of X-Files cops, that scene where the lady takes her shoes off and starts karate kicking people was kind of amusing. I saw a bee. No one karate kicks bees unless you're Daniel LaRusso. And even then, he probably wouldn't. Maybe Joey Lawrence would. Joey Lawrence would totally karate kick a bee. And I think Jake would agree with me on that. What say you, Metal Don? Yeah. Other than that, I'm kind of gotten to the point where I know what to expect with Zest. So nothing really stood out to me a whole lot other than that plot revelation, the very obvious toy, and and some of the cool visuals. Yeah, see, he agrees with me. It's Johnny Lawrence, and yes, he would. Yeah, he totally would. So yeah, it's one of those moments I do wish I had the bros with me today, but there you go. Got another live stream out there for you. We should have, hopefully, well, unfortunately, Sentai Guy is going to be kept away for at least next week. I don't know if it's this weekend next. He said 2 weeks, but I don't know if he meant this weekend next. So hopefully in 2 weeks, We'll have the crew back together again and hopefully have episodes out on the feed. Chris, if you're going to volunteer as tribute for editing, efficiency needs to be your new middle name. But hopefully the recordings for the episodes after that are not nearly as bad. But I do want to start recording for season 2. I need some season 2 in my life. Damn. All right. With that, what have we learned this week? Don't resurrect your kaiju with mold. Don't poison your food when you're dreaming. And may the power protect you. Thank you for listening to Henshin Power V3, a podcast produced and hosted by Nathan March and
Christopher Reiner
and Jake Hamber.
If you'd like to send us feedback, we'd love to hear from you. So email us at henshin.power.v3@gmail.com.
Follow us on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Thank you, Danny Demana, where our handle is @HenshinPowerV3, and join our official Facebook groups, Power Rangers Legacy and the Marvel Out Lounge. We also have a Discord server called the Marvel Out Lounge. Check the show notes for links to all of them.
Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and other great podcatchers. The podcast logo was designed by Rebecca Hutchins. Follow her on Instagram at super_r_illustrations.
Our theme song is a Joe the Hero remix by GVG Kid, which is based on a track from the video game Beautiful Joe.
All film and audio clips belong to their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended or implied.
Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Podchaser to spread the word about the show. And until next time,
Schwatch!